That one's a prison. Sí, a ver, dale. La puerta.
Dale.
Welcome to everyone to Sauce Time Gaming. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video once again. And today, on episode 12 of our Recoil Breakdown series, we're going to be covering the new sort of no recoil weapon. It's sort of a 0.5 recoil weapon with the DP27 LMG. Now, the DP27 seems arguably the runner-up for the inevitable Bren nerf that is to come, and I can't say with certainty, but I do feel it received a stealth recoil buff, which actually leads to the discovery of this sort of 0.5 recoil build and even a negative sort of build, which we're going to talk about when we get to that. Now, as always on these videos, there are timestamps down below which you can use for your convenience around the video. And without further ado, we're going to hop on right into the first section, which is the testing. Now, I've approached testing here slightly different to how our previous recoil breakdown videos have gone, due to the fact that some attachments, specifically in the muzzle department, are just not used amongst the community, and I really haven't seen anyone running the T1 flash hider, so I'm pretty much just funneling everything into testing the actual useful muzzles, which are the MX silencer, the recoil booster, and the Mercury silencer. And I'm getting the recoil plot for those because those are pretty much the most used muzzles at this time. Now, I also looked into the magazine type recoil patterns because I saw a video from True Game Data talking about the 105 bullet pan magazine type on the DP27, giving it a better recoil control than all the others. And it was a very interesting approach here because I checked pretty much the base recoil for the base magazine, and then I tested all other magazines, which you can see here. And they all gave slightly different recoil patterns. And when we actually started stacking things up in the builds, we discovered that different magazine types worked best with the different builds that we have. So we have two builds to cover today, but we're going to be talking about the mag types as well that work best with it and give you the best recoil pattern. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about those builds. So when we're talking about the 0.5 recoil, now I call it 0.5 because pretty much this build kicks up a little bit, and depending on the mag type you use, and then it pretty much stalls from left to right. So it's essentially zero recoil, although of course there is some recoil involved there. However, the focus here is with the Kovalevskaya 680mm BO2D barrel. This one gives you the best sort of reduced idle sway, and it gives you some other benefits here. But when we were testing the recoil patterns, this one was the best one to give you the best patterns overall. We're running the bipod here. For this setup, you can run the M1941 handstop and the Carver foregrip. Just keep in mind the downsides for each one of these. I prefer the bipod personally because if I do find the instance where I can crouch or prone, I'm gonna get a zero recoil pattern with this bipod specifically. So I think this is just the best one because even when you're standing up, the recoil pattern for the magazine types we're going to talk about are still very easy to control. So bipod here by far is my favorite option. Lengthen because this is just our maximum long range setup. Polymer grip, hard scope, fully loaded, the Empress VZV stock. This one gives us sustained fire recoil control, and it gives us an extra benefit when we are mounted, crouched, or prone. So this kind of is tying into the bipod as well. I'm running the 3 to 6x sight here. I just feel this one was the best one to run the DP27 with. Now, when we're talking about the muzzles, you can run the Mercury, the recoil booster, or the MX silencer. I wouldn't recommend the Mercury just because you're losing on the damage range, and to be honest, this build here works great with the MX silencer. I found that it was very consistent for pretty much a long range build, so I think the aim down sight speed is not really hindered as much, and because I'm running the bipod instead of the carver foregrip, for example, I'm not losing out on much of the ADS speed anyway. You can run the recoil booster here. It doesn't affect your recoil pattern as much, and it is negligible based on the testing I had. So either of these are a fantastic option. I'm going with the MX silencer here. And now when we talk about the magazine, now for this build specifically, you can run a couple of things here. You can run the 63 pans, which is pretty much the default magazine for this, and that'll give you a very low recoil pattern. It's pretty much going to kick up, then it stalls a little bit. It might kick up just a little bit more, but the overall pattern itself is extremely easy, and you can see a couple of clips here as I'm talking about this. You can also run the 63 round pans, that these increase your bullet velocity, bullet penetration, and damage. And to be honest, the recoil pattern here kicks up and then kicks back down, so it pretty much gives you a little bit of vertical recoil and then it kicks back down sort of negatively vertically. So it's a rather easy although awkward recoil pattern to control. I thought though that the best one where you really maximize their benefits was with the 105 round pan, because the reload speed is so slow with this weapon overall. You just want to have maximum bullet capacity. And the recoil pattern for this, it kicks up and then it stalls, which is very easy to get used to once you start using the weapon. So I think the 105 round pans is really the best way. And this one right here is by far my favorite build right now for the long range DP27. This is the 0.5 recoil build. Now, when we talk about the second build, this is pretty much focusing on getting maximum damage output from the weapon itself. And we're going to be running the Kovalevskaya 604mm barrel. This one is going to give you more bullet velocity, a little bit less than the Kovalevskaya 680, but it gives you a ton more damage range. So this one is going to really extend your damage output to farther ranges. And we're going to be running the carver foregrip with this build because it doesn't have the extra control that the other barrel has. And so I tested the M1941 hand stop and the bipod for this one as well, but the carver foregrip gave way more consistent results, so I think this is the best one to run for this build. We're running lengthened, polymer grip, hard scope, fully loaded, Empress VZV, and the 3-6 optic. Pretty much the same build in this regard to the other one. When we're talking about the magazine, we can also be running a combination of things depending on what you want to do. Because we're focusing on sort of the maximum damage output for this one, we're going to be focusing on running the 81 round pans. This one is going to give us pretty much the best recoil pattern, where it's focusing on sort of kicking up and then down like the 63 high damage magazine on the 0.5 recoil build did. And so this is going to give you a very easy pattern to get used to once you try it for a while, because it might be a little bit awkward, right? But you can run the 108 pans or 105 round pans here, sorry. And it does give you an easy to control pattern as well, as you're seeing from the clips. So it really depends up to you. You can run a lot of different options here with the magazine type. Just bear in mind that the reload speed is rather slow, so most of the time you want to get just as many bullets as possible, right? And then in regards to the muzzle, we're going to be running the MX silencer or the recoil booster. If you feel that the fire rate is too slow because you're running this magazine type that lowers your fire rate, then you can definitely run the recoil booster. It doesn't change your recoil pattern as much. To be honest, it's negligible based on what I tested. So you can run this, or if you want to stay suppressed and run the MX silencer, you could run the Mercury silencer because you're not losing that much damage range because the barrel is compensating so well. So yeah, in this case, you can use whatever works best for you, but this is the second best build for the DP27. And there you have it, the two best DP27 builds currently in Warzone. Now, this has actually become one of my favorite weapons to use. Like, I had a ton of fun actually getting the gameplay for this video, and this is likely going to be one of my sort of common rotation weapons to keep in line. The Bren received a very slight nerf to its sort of damage range itself, but I don't think it really kicked it off of the meta. However, I am 100% sure that the DP27 is gonna surface as the new best LMG once the Bren gets adjusted to a little more of a common standpoint here. And so, well, I hope that you actually do enjoy these builds today, and I hope you have as much fun as I had using these builds. But until the next one, I thank you so much for reaching this point of the video. Thank you for sticking around for the Recoil Breakdown series. Let me know if there's any weapon I haven't broken down yet and you want to see down in the comment section down below. Now, if you did like the video, please do go ahead and like it. If you want to watch all the regulars for Sauce Time Gaming, subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, there's really nothing else I can say other than I hope you have a fantastic day. And throughout that day, I hope you always remember, Sauce Time Gaming.